Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland, an Arsenal podcast. I'm Gimli, and tonight my guests are, first up, don't block my cat flap, it's Danny the GFP. Hello, Danny.
Yeah, you saw my tweets to Amazon. Well, it was Ian Collins on LBC was talking about delivery drivers and their inability to speak or read English, and then I showed him the picture of all that stuff they piled behind my back door and blocked my cat flap.
What the hell were you ordering? It was just mountain of stuff.
Cat food. I got 4 cats, so there was, I think, 40 kilograms of cat food. I buy it on the more you buy, the cheaper it is. So I bought 6 months worth, which was most of it. Jeez. And one of them came to the door and I said, could you not block the cat flap? And he looked at me, he didn't have it. And I said, meow, meow, no. And pointed to the back door and he still didn't. I went, forget it. He looked quite happy though, so let him get on with it.
Fair enough. And we can confirm that was Amazon, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
Next up, don't stamp on my daffodils, it's Jason Davis.
Hello.
How do?
I'm not too bad. How are you, pal?
Yeah, I'm all good. All good. Fighting fit. It's the first time in like 3 or 4 weeks that I've not had first-degree burns or a cold, or I'm actually feeling good.
To be fair, you're stepping on up. I think I've taken that mantle this week. I walked into the door frame the other night.
Oh. Into a dolphin?
Door frame.
Oh, right, okay. Because if you walked into a dolphin, Chris would be furious.
Oh, no. Sharks, Chris likes. Door frame 1, Davis 0.
Well, I don't like all fish.
You would have thought Chris was more of a dolphin fan than a shark fan, seeing as he's a bit wet.
That's poor on so many levels. I love it.
Next up, don't talk to me about Brexit. It's Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hello, and for once I have the satisfaction of being the person on the podcast who's not in the coldest country at present we're on the podcast with, which is good.
It is good. And what kind of a week have you had? Have you had much jollity and mirth?
No jollity, no mirth, very little work. I didn't work on Monday. I did some today-ish. Got something planned for tomorrow and Thursday. Friday I'm not working, so I'm being very lazy.
Fair enough. You can't argue with that. Don't knock lazy. And finally, don't forget to include a top-quality special guest. It's Rami Shaaban. Hello, Rami.
Hello, mate.
How you doing? It's nice to hear you back on our airwaves again.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And I'm in the coldest country, so I'll take that one today.
Would you tell the listeners just how cold it is where you are?
At the moment, it's around minus 10 degrees, but it's okay. A lot of snow.
Oh, we do like the snow. Right then, we'll continue on the podcast by asking Rami some questions. Danny, you've got the best of the listener questions. I'll explain now. Rami's only got a very short amount of time, so we're just going to chuck some of the best listener questions at him and then talk about Ostersunds a little bit. So, Danny, go for it.
Okay, people should just say that Rami is home alone with the kids so that you can hear the kids in the background, but that's okay because it's Rami. And as he is the back-to-back winner of our Celebrity Pro Guest of the Year, he can do whatever he wants. So, first of all, from Jez Box says, not a question, just massive respect to Rami for maintaining his respect and love for the club. That's a nice thing to say. Neil McKeown says, how many penalties did Rami face whilst playing for Arsenal, and do you have any tips for Petr Cech?
Yeah, Petr Cech is struggling a bit with the penalties, and I think that goes up and down. I think in Chelsea he was very good at penalties. I don't know what happened when he came to Arsenal. I think he had some kind of record in Chelsea, didn't he?
I'm not sure. I'm just going to have a look.
Yeah, I think so. He was known for great penalty saver at Chelsea. But I think that goes in periods as well. I can just recall on my career. I think I was in 3-4 penalty shootouts during my career. We won all of them, to be fair. And I must admit, so it's about coming into it. And if you make the first save, then it's easier. But if you look at Andreas Isaksson, that national team goalkeeper for Sweden that I was competing with for a long time, he had the same problem. He never took a penalty. But despite of that, he was amazing in goal. But everybody talks about his lack of saving penalties, and I don't know. He should have, because he's tall. He has he's not short. He's. I think if he saves one, I think that will help him. But until he gets the first one, then I think he will take it from there.
Okay, yeah, I'll just add a quick look. I can't find any stats on his penalties apart from he's not saved one for Arsenal, I don't think. Right, he also, Neil asks, could Rami give us an insight into the role and relationship between a goalkeeper and his defence? Who were his favourite defenders to play with and why?
I must say Sol Campbell was my favourite. He was the one playing every week, in and out. Next to Sol Campbell was Kolo Touré and sometimes Martin Keown, but Sol was always standing on the right spot. He was very loyal. He loved defending. Not as much as Martin Keown, though, but he was a top defender for me.
Good. We love Martin Keown's one of my personal favourites.
Yeah.
Right. So the next one is from Bend It Like Bentner, which is a play on words from the film Bergkamp, I think. This person says, Arsene Wenger seemed to be very happy to see you and Anders Limpar. Did he expect you guys to support him?
I don't know. He when I went to the dressing room, he was very happy, to be fair. And I said that to the people I was with as well. I'm lucky we won 3-0. Otherwise, I would have been struggling going down to the dressing room. But with the result in our hand, he was very happy. And I think, I don't know if it's consciously or unconsciously, but I think he likes when players from the good era comes, even if I didn't play that much. But when he sees like Robert Perez at the training ground, he reminisces. And I think if that's something he needs, I think it's now. He needs all the support, and I felt it like that when he hugged me. It was like, "Hi, how you doing?" And he was very happy, and I think he reminisced to the era when I was there and we had a great spell. I think so.
Oh, good. It did seem like really nice, and El Neni, he gave you a big hug as well, didn't he?
Yeah, it was actually the first time I met him. But it was nice. We spoke for maybe 10-15 minutes, and I'm half Egyptian as well, so we spoke Arabic, and he's very nice, and he had a great game as well. And as I said earlier in this podcast, I think he should have been playing more. Maybe he's not the one who gives the killer passes, but you can always rely on his performance. He don't give away so much. He don't hardly give away a pass. And I think I'm not saying you can't have so many players of that dignity or that style of playing, but I think he's the right guy to have one, and I think he suits very well in that role.
You're a Zemalek fan, aren't you?
Yeah.
Who does he support in Egypt?
He played for another team called Mawlin Al Arab, and that's a team in Cairo as well. And I think Mohamed Salah played there as well as youth, and that's quite not so. Normally it's players from Zamalek or Al Ahly. That's the two big teams in Egypt. They have all the budgets. It's like comparing in England. Say the top 3-4 teams, and then Mawlin maybe is like what can I say, West Ham or something.
Okay.
And having two from that team doing very well in England is fantastic.
Jolly good. Right, this one, and they've also sent in another question. It says, as a fan of Arsenal and an ex-Arsenal player, if you could rename the Emirates to something else, what would it be?
Oof, that's a good one.
Do you want to have a think about that while I ask you another question?
I would say something. I understand that it had to be a commercial thing, but I would, with heart, I would say something that connects to Arsenal, not a brand. But obviously, this is the reality now.
That's a very good answer.
Something like clock end or something from an old something, but not a brand.
Okay. Right, Mr. Arsenal 93 says, Rami, what is your favourite Swedish and Egyptian food to eat?
Ooh. Swedish favorite food must be. It's a meat dish. I don't know what you call it in England, but it's called Wallenbergare. It's some kind of meat with fried potatoes. Not French fries, but fried potatoes. In Egypt, good. And in Egypt, I would say some kind of kofta. It's meat in a stick that you have over an open fire.
Oh, yeah, we get those here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried that.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question is from Jove82. Which Premier League striker did you fear playing against the most?
I would say Van Nistelrooy.
Oh.
I think, yeah. He was a tricky one. But I saved his shots when I played United away. Veron scored that game, but I saved his shot, so I'm happy.
Good. Right, and the final listener question for you is from Jimmy. He says, I'm partly nervous and partly excited to ask this question with Steve on the podcast. For Rami, how much influence does a goalkeeping coach have on a goalkeeper at the top level of the game?
Good one. I don't think so much, to be honest. I think the main thing, I remember Jens Lehmann said once that all the top-class goalkeepers can stop a ball. It's all about judgments, the decisions you take. If you hold the ball or if you punch the ball, stand. I mean, the quality is so good nowadays on the goalkeepers. But I think the goalkeeping coach, his main reason he's there, I think, is obviously to have good sessions, but as well to boost the goalkeeper. Not the only one who is playing, but even the second choice and third choice. So you get a good group working together to the same target. I think it's more of social skills. Not more, but you need to have both. You need to have social skills and good sessions. So yeah, that's very important.
That's something I don't have in social skills, isn't it, Gimli?
You have no social skills whatsoever.
Get on with it. Right, that's all the questions. Thank you very much to the listeners. We'll answer the other questions for the rest of the pod later on in the pod. So, Gimli, back to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Rami a few questions as well. Obviously, it's been a while since you've been on, Rami. And obviously, as a player for the club and a fan too, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the direction that you think Arsenal are heading with Arsene Wenger as well, and your thoughts on him and his continued management of Arsenal.
I think he's going through his toughest period now. He missed the Champions League this year. But we can't forget that he took us to Champions League 20 odd times in a row. He have this year and another year on his contract. I think I have said it before as well. I think we should give it to him. Saying that, I think we need to, like now we lost Sanchez, which I said in the earlier pod as well. I think Sanchez will leave and Ozil will stay. But I still miss Ozil being the leader in the team, to be honest. We need to get a player that can be the leader, a strong central defender or strong central midfielder. Then we are offensively, on the paper we are strong, but I think we need to. And if the boss managed to get 2-3 of those players, I think we can do something good. And I hope, for his sake, that he finish in style like Sir Alex Ferguson did. I hope so.
Do you Do you think, Rami, that maybe a win in the Carabao Cup, when is it, next weekend?
Yeah.
Do you think if Arsenal win that, then it might be the right time for him to go, okay, let me leave on a high, I've just won a trophy, maybe time to go then?
I don't think he thinks like that. I think he wants to take the club to the Champions League again, because that means so much to him. Obviously, we won the FA Cup the other year, and it was so long time since we won it, and then we won it, and it didn't take long time till people started again to like, oh, Wenger out. And I think the same will be with even if we take this trophy that is less important than the FA Cup, I think that won't make such a big difference. I don't think so. I think he wants to take the club to the Champions League. That's my thoughts.
And you mentioned Alexis Sanchez moving. We'll just cover that briefly. Obviously, going into the January transfer window, it looked quite bleak. Obviously, Sanchez was on his way out of the club. It looked like Ozil hadn't signed a deal either, and he could have possibly be gone. And we sat there at the end of the window with, surprisingly, Aubameyang and Mkhitaryan for Sanchez and Ozil tied up on a new deal. What's your thoughts on all of the above, and how do you think that can benefit Arsenal going forward?
I think that was only positive. What I think, I haven't spoke to anyone about it, but by reading the papers and everything and the body language of people, I think the players were happy that Sanchez left because of the dressing room and his attitude and stuff. I'm not sure. This is only what I think. Getting Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang, who have played in Dortmund, both of them had a great spell at Dortmund. I think that's very good. But they need time together as well. Mkhitaryan is a good player. He just needs time to adapt to it. Ozil signing a new contract, God knows he was in such a good position to sign. And I think he got what he wanted, to be fair. So I was not that surprised that he signed a new contract.
And just briefly, we should cover, have you heard anything about Hector Bellerin speaking at the Oxford Union last week?
No, I haven't heard anything about it. Can you shortly... what's the fuzz, or what's the...
He was asked around about a fan platform, like a podcast or another forum, and he was asked about. Is there anyone here that can word this better than me?
Yeah, I can if you want.
I'm sorry for that. I'm just curious.
That's all right, Rami.
He was invited to the Oxford Union to talk to a group of students there. And he talked like for 50, 60 minutes very eloquently and very articulately about a lot of things in football, about youth mental health, the pressures on young footballers, how he'd even, fallen into self-doubt, and the pressures that are put on players, especially by social media, are immense. And then they opened up the questions to the audience, and one of the audience asked him a question about a certain infamous, shall we say, or notorious fan platform, or what he thought about it. He basically just said that he felt that people who profited from failure or the demise of the club couldn't really call themselves fans, and that sort of attracted a snowstorm, primarily from fans of that platform and the leading elements on there, and that led to a lot of abuse against him. He then came back and just said, look, it's very obvious that people can't take it on the chin when Fed comments are made about them, and that says more about you than it does me. But all the good things he talked about on there were by and largely ignored, and I think it's a massive problem, because if you go back to George Graham's days, when I lived in London, those players used to be in the pubs after the game. They used to be very close to the fans. In modern times, players have become really distant because, Granit Xhaka, Lacazette, they've all received death threats via their Instagram accounts. They've had to switch off commenting on there. Just people becoming really, really stupid, abusing our own players. And players are becoming more and more remote from fans. And when you get a player who's actually brave enough, like Bellerin, to come out and say, right, here I am. I'm live on YouTube in front of 50 students at Oxford, talking really, and articulate, and I may point out in his second language. It's really bad news that they come out and pillory him. And then today, of course, an alleged recording of him saying he wants to leave Arsenal and saying negative things about Arsenal's come out. Of course, it's not him. It's been faked up by one of the people on this fans platform, allegedly. And they make a big deal out of it. And that's what Gimli's talking about.
Okay. I understand. And I think that's more of a social problem when it comes to social media. I think that it's a bigger question than just a football player saying what he thinks from his heart. And no one is supposed to get death threats and everything. At the end of the day, he's running there every day, trying to do his best. That's my opinion. And no one deserves death threats. Everyone can have a bad day, or every team can have a bad spell. But I understand, but unfortunately, that's the climate today when it comes to social media, and it's very sad to hear that. And it's like you said, everybody forgets about all the 50 minutes he said something good. They only pick on the thing that's questionable,
the controversial.
Yeah, exactly. And but that's how it is nowadays, unfortunately.
Indeed it is. I'll open it up now to Jason, Steve, if you've got any questions for Rami.
No, I'm just happy to be on with you again, Rami. It's nice to have you back on, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Pleasure.
Steve?
I'm going to steer away from the obvious area that people might expect me to go to, because we talked about this pre the pod, and it's very, very difficult for I think ex-players to talk about people that are still working at the club when they've got good relationships with people at the club and stuff. So won't go into that. What goes on off air stays off air. As a keeper, Rami, how important is training to keep your reactions and your movements at top speed? Because one of the things that never ceases to amaze me when you watch keepers in their prime, and I'm going back to Seaman, Pat Jennings, even Peter Shilton, Casillas when he was at Real Madrid, the famous, who was the huge guy that used to play for Bayern Munich who layman's hated?
Kahn.
Oliver Kahn.
Yeah. I mean, all those guys had this fantastic ability to swat balls away like they were flies coming at them like 100 miles an hour. But it was Casillas that got me. With sometimes he'd have to fly one way, get up, fly the other way, then jump up and punch the ball over the bar. So there surely must be routines that goalkeepers do to sharpen those reactions. How important is that to keep that going all the time?
It's very important. That's why you train every day very hard. You train, you go down, you jump up, train your explosive stamina, your footwork. All those elements are very important. But what amazes me as well, it's to have all those, like I've said earlier as well, it's like I had so many goalkeepers that has been so good in training, but can't cope with the pressure. And can't. So it's two aspects in this. It doesn't matter how strong or how good you are in training if you can't deliver when it comes to a game. So you need to have both. You look at Casillas when he was at Real Madrid. He was so good. Then Mourinho sacked him for a half a year or something, or a year. He went to Porto. He was not the same goalkeeper.
No.
So you need to keep, and that was about the earlier question as well. The goalkeeping coach's job is to build confidence to the goalkeepers, not pull them down. That's very important. But you need as well the work. It's like if you have a Ferrari, you need to put good fuel in it. You can't put diesel in it. So it gels with, it goes hand in hand, all those elements.
So it's all sort of like the judgment, the reactions, the hard work. So if you're not, I mean, obviously then a keeper's got to be constantly challenged daily in training. They've got to be pushed.
Yeah, definitely.
And that means
even if you know you're the first choice, even if you know that you are playing next week, you need to have it inside you. You need to challenge yourself. You need to have a goalkeeping coach that is challenging you. You need to have a second choice, third choice goalkeeper who's challenging you all the time. Every practice, not maybe every, but every now and then, you need to not fight, but you need to have elements in the practice that is like crosses. How many crosses can you take? How many shots can you take? You need to have that as well in the practice.
Sorry, I do have a question, actually. Do you mind if I cut in? Obviously, Rami, with our recent defensive issues, we're not defending as a team. You've seen our goalkeepers come under probably, the most difficult times a keeper's faced at the Arsenal for a number of years, 20 plus years. How difficult it must be, with poor decision making in the back four on such a regular basis. How difficult for these guys is it at the moment?
It's very difficult. If you have a solid back four or back three that have been working together for a long time, it's much easier for the goalkeeper as well. And you can see that sometimes when we concede goals, they are all over the place sometimes, and you wonder what are they thinking. And that thought even Peter Cech in goal have, like when people are not where they are supposed to be or take the wrong decisions, and that affects him as well. You can save some of the games, but not over a whole season. It's impossible.
Yeah. I mean, one of the areas I look at is Cech's taking criticism recently for near post goals. Yet some of the shots coming in at near post at him over the last couple of seasons, they should never have been allowed to happen. You'd expect a defender to cut that angle off. So if he's not expecting it's got to be a real issue for him.
Yeah, and it's not only that; it's a confidence thing as well. I mean, all goalkeepers are affected. It doesn't matter how good you are or how good you have been. You get affected. Everyone who says, no, I'm not affected are lying. It doesn't matter what kind of career you had. So, of course, that affects him. And I have been in that situation as well. I have been playing for teams that had a very solid back four, and it's enjoyable to play. Everybody does what they're supposed to do. And then you have a few injuries and you have a new back four and they don't know what to do. You stand there and situations happens from nowhere and you get on your back heels instead.
When you get those situations which happen, which are unpredictable, like someone makes bad judgment or they're in the wrong position or drops deep off their man and allows them to attack. When that happens one or two times, obviously that damages your confidence, but does that make you make bad judgments? Do you try to do things a goalkeeper shouldn't do? Is that why we're seeing Petr Cech making a few false errors now and again? Because he's maybe trying to correct for the mistakes in front of him?
Yeah, I think so. I think you take on a responsibility that you're not supposed to do. And sometimes you take on a responsibility over your shoulders that you hope that you can help the team. But at the end of the day, you're the one who get the blame because you made a bad decision. But you haven't seen what happened before that situation. Yeah. And that's very common.
I think it was Bob Wilson that said that no one remembers centre-forwards misses, but everybody remembers the one goal you let in as a keeper.
Definitely. And that's what you like about Bob Wilson as well. He's always protecting your goalkeepers. I don't know if you have heard Peter Cech's goalkeeping coach or the goalkeeping coach at the club now saying anything like that to protect him. I don't know.
No, nothing. Silence.
Exactly.
Silence and patent. And no, as has been discussed, I don't think he's the best. I don't think he's the best people person out there.
Yeah.
So
maybe you're right.
No.
Right then, should we talk a little bit about Ostersunds?
Yeah, that's much nicer.
Yes. Right then, we'll continue this show by talking about our 3-0 win over Ostersunds. Rami, you were there. Tell us a little bit about Ostersunds as a club and, of course, the atmosphere in the game.
Yeah, I can start with I got invited by Östersund to come up and join the game with them. They invited all the previous Arsenal players. Me and Anders Limpar went together up to see the game. Östersund is a fairly new club. I think they have only existed in 10 odd years. Had amazing spell. I think what happened was Graham Potter, the coach, and the CEO of the club have changed everything, turned around. And in Sweden, it's not like in England where you can buy a club and you buy players. Here, it's more like Germany. You have the members owning a big part of the club. So it's no financial doping or anything. It's a town up north. There are more 50,000 people living in Östersund. They are known for their skiing, not downhill, but I don't know what you call it. But,
cross country.
Yeah, cross country skiing. But amazing. They had an amazing, and I have watched them a lot of games. They have been amazing during the season. And I ended up talking in front of Gazidis was there. A lot of Arsenal stuff was there on the dinner. And I said before the game, the big advantage Arsenal have is that Östersund is in their pre-season now. Their league stopped in November. So they haven't had competitive games for 2-3 months, I think. And that affects them. The good thing for Östersund is that it's AstroTurf, the grass, and I think that's an advantage for Östersund. But you could see in the game as well that the first 20-25 minutes, Östersund was not near what I have seen them before, and you can see they have no tempo in their bodies. And they always want, I know the boss and all the staff at Arsenal have looked at them very closely, and they always want to play the ball from the back or from the goalkeeper. And when you are not in the season, you are you don't know where you stand. And it took them 25 minutes to get into it, and it's too late for us soon.
And Steve, we'll come to you next. Were you surprised not to see more youngsters in the starting 11?
No. I'll tell you why. Because if you look at the results that Ostersunds had, first of all, in qualifying for the Champions League, they knocked out Galatasaray, which is no mean feat. And they went to Galatasaray and they got a fucking draw there. They knocked out PAOK of Greece. So this is not a team of mugs. You know, everyone's saying, "Oh, yeah, well, they're just winning it because it's cold and they've got AstroTurf pitch." No, they were going away and getting results against big time clubs in big stadiums on grass. You know, against big, the Greek. I think the second in the Greek league, and Galatasaray were the Turkish champions. So they hadn't lost an away. They hadn't lost at home in the Europa League, and they only lost one away game.
And they played against Bilbao at home. They played 2-2.
That's right, yeah.
They should have won like 3-4 goals. And the Bilbao players said it was like playing Barcelona.
Yeah.
Like they were so comfortable with the ball, playing on this turf and everything. But as I said before, they are strong. I mean, then I don't know if it's one season wonder or whatever, but at the time of period, they are strong. They went to Hertha Berlin. They were leading. They had a very difficult group as well. Yeah. And they won that, or came second, I think, in that group. So it's not a bad team.
No, I mean, you can't... To go there and win 3-0, it was a scrappy game, and they were scrappy goals by Arsenal. But, it's a good result. They played against Atletico Bilbao. I think they beat them on their own ground, and they got a draw against in Atletico Bilbao. And this guy Potter, he built this team really out of, well, okay, who actually is left in Sweden who hasn't got a team as a professional footballer? And he got a lot of players from sort of like immigrant backgrounds, and he also managed to get some players from some UEFA scheme where professional players who haven't got a side can sign up, and then they can be contacted. He got a player from Middlesbrough and somewhere else. So the players that he got, he weren't bad, but I mean, it goes with what Rami was talking about earlier on about confidence and culture. He created a team based on team ethos, and they did weird things like going to watch the ballet, and it was, you know, the whole thing was about team building. It's quite a remarkable project that he's built there, and it'd be great to see them at the Emirates, but hopefully not getting a result.
No, they won't get the result. But it's like you say, it's like they are going on ballets, they are singing, and they do this because he wants them to be out of their comfort zone. Like, if they can handle that, then they can play big games as well where they are not that comfortable. So he has a thought in everything he's doing. And they even lost their best player, I would say, or one of the best in the January window to another Swedish club, Malmö. Mm-hmm. So they lost one of their key players. But, he has done, I think it doesn't matter if you sell, because a few of those players obviously will go to bigger clubs, but I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem will be when Graham Potter, or the chairman is leaving the club. That's the big key for the club, how they will take it from there.
Yeah. But I think, you know, it's a remarkable project, and I think it was a great result for Arsenal. And I think really when you look at the teams that are left in the Europa League, Arsenal can have some hope of trying to do very well in that competition.
And that's the only chance for Champions League for them now. So they have to put everything. That's why I don't think he rested that many players. No. Because he wants to go all the way.
Yeah. Do you also think that, and Jace, we'll go to you next, do you think that the strong lineup was an indication that Arsenal wanted it to be settled in the first leg?
I think it's partly due to the loss against Tottenham. You know, you need to get a reaction to that. You're going to not an inhospitable place, but you know, Ostersund does. As Rami said, it's up north. It's the ski. It's the head of the cross-country ski federation for Sweden, etc. You know, you could see all the snow plowed up outside the ground. You know, when you were watching the game, and to be honest, you know, we came off the back of a performance against Tottenham, which was pitiful. And so, you know, these guys now, you know, they've been rested midweek in the early part of the Europa Cup. This is a way we can get into Champions League. We need to take it seriously, and they need to start playing. So, you know, I thought it was a decent lineup. I thought it was the right lineup for the night. I think we let ourselves down a bit. We should have taken advantage of the opportunities we had on the night. We could have put 4 or 5 past Ostersund. But when Ostersund did start to play, I was really surprised about the quality they showed on the ball. They were a decent outfit, to be fair. And you know, we did the radio show afterwards. It was an enjoyable game. You know, if you look, that's a town of 50,000 people. It's nice for them to see the Arsenal. It was a great night. It's up to us now, you know, finish off the away leg this Thursday, the home leg this Thursday, and get the job done and on to the next round.
Mm. And Danny, Xhaka was dropped for this game. Do you think that was a good call, or was he only being rested?
Oh, it's always a good call if Elneny gets a game, because everyone knows he's one of my favourites. I love him. He's like a wasp playing in front of the back two, nipping in around, getting the ball. I love the way he goes sliding in. He'll get the ball, get up really quickly and run off with it. And that's something the bigger players can't do. And it's just really good for us to see him playing. We've all been calling out for Maitland-Niles to play in that position. and he had a decent game as well. And if we're just talking about the term that Ostersunds have only played one game, that was a cup game. I think they won it 3-0 in the Swedish Cup. And it guarantee people, if this would have been if Ostersunds would have had about 5 or 6 league games this season, we wouldn't have gone there and won 3-0. I had us down to get a tricky 1-0 win. But they're just not ready. They're not into playing the full season yet. So they'll have played, I think, a couple more games by the time we play them on Thursday, hopefully, and we'll see a better game from them. But it's really nice to see big little teams like Ostersunds, who were only formed in 1996, make some money out of this game, because they got a lovely. So I was really surprised at the stadium. The stadium looked really nice. And this is when we were playing in the Europa League. These are the kind of teams that I wanted to come up against, teams that I haven't seen played before, and share a little bit of the love, share some of the money, have fun. It's good. I liked it.
Yeah, it's very important. Like the club, they sold it. It's 8,000 people in the stands. They could have played in a Swedish national arena and filled it up, but they said, like, we have to play here at home because the whole city is backing us, and so it was an easy decision for them. But I asked why they didn't put it, but they said it was a no-brainer. They're so important that the community in Östersund gets a share of this as well. So they are not only out for the money that way, but obviously getting Arsenal to draw, it was the best thing that could happen to the club.
Mm. And Rami, we'll stick with you then. You could say that they were a little bit unlucky. Obviously, they did get a penalty, which they missed. And the picture of that player was doing the rounds of him and his daughter or son, and he was wearing an Arsenal shirt. I hope there's no conspiracy there, of course.
No, it's not.
But would you consider Ostersunds unlucky that they didn't get maybe more than that one penalty? There were a few shouts on the night.
They had a few chances, but as we said earlier, they were not up for it tonight. And that's the part of the Swedish football. We have a big advantage in July when it's qualifications to Europe, Champions League and Europa League, when we are in the middle of the season and the big clubs in Europe are not. That's our window. But going all the way like Östersund did, it's a big disadvantage. So and they know about it. So it's what shall they do? I mean, like I said earlier, I have seen them play so many games, and it was not the same team that I have seen them play before. Before they played with the frenzy, and they had so much confidence. It doesn't matter if they played Galatasaray, Bilbao, Hertha Berlin, or they just hammered it. But the first 25 minutes, they were so pale.
Fair enough. Steve, we'll come to you next. More assists for Mkhitaryan on the night. How is he settling in?
It's very difficult to sort of ascertain, because he has a good game like that. He had a great game against Everton, and yet he was anonymous against Tottenham. And it's going to take him more time to settle in. He's been on the sidelines at United. He's been playing in a team that parked the bus. And he's gone to playing in a team that haven't got a bus and don't know how to park it and couldn't defend their way out of a paper bag, and they've sent all their goalkeepers into trauma. So it's but we can attack, and also as well. I mean, it's very difficult because at first he had Lacazette up front to play with, who's now out for a while, and now he's got Aubameyang up front, who he's played with before at Dortmund. So he's got to sort of reignite that relationship, because he's got to learn to play with Ozil as well. So it'll take him time, but I think he'll be a good player for Arsenal. You're not going to see him flying in from the wing like Mark Overmars, but what you will see him doing is running at central defenders and committing them and laying balls off and making goals and scoring goals.
Mm. And Jace, will come to you next. Kolasinac got some game time towards the end. Was he injured, or has Monreal's form just kept him out?
I don't know what's been happening there. I mean, for Monreal to keep him out the side, that's fair enough. I think Nacho's form, he grabs another goal on the night. You know what I mean? Nacho's been a stand-up performer for us over the last couple of seasons, in my opinion. For Maitland-Niles to have gotten ahead of him, I find very strange. I don't understand what's going on there. I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see, aren't we? You know, I mean, I think the only person who does know is Arsene Wenger. That's the truth of the matter.
Mm. And Danny, Ozil gets a goal and silences the people who said he was only playing for a contract. Your thoughts on Ozil's performance, seeing as we've stopped doing Ozil watches?
Yeah, we've got to do the roundup after this, but yeah, he had a good game. I noticed quite a lot of the time he was drifting back into central midfield a lot, which I think kind of disrupted the game that Maitland-Niles was trying to play, because where were you going to go more forward? Were you going to be holding back a little bit more? But he was passing the ball around. He got an Opta rating of 7.9, which isn't too bad. Our best outfield player was Maitland-Niles, apparently with an Opta rating of 8. So I think it was a good run out for him, but it just shows the lack of the depth of the squad at the moment. With in that we have to play Ozil in an away game on that pitch. I mean, Wilshere couldn't play because I think it's not that I know, but because of his knees on that pitch or his ankles, that wasn't going to do him any favours. Xhaka's not to be trusted, and I don't think we really got anybody else who could have played in that Ozil role that I know of. Can we? Could we? No. I don't think there's anybody with Ramsey being injured.
No.
You can agree with me if you want.
I'll always agree with you, Danny.
Yeah.
To wrap this up, we'll go to Rami. Obviously, we've got Ostersunds again at home this Thursday. What squad do you pick for that one? Do you go with more of the same, or do you just field the kids?
I think he will rest players. I think it's home safe. 3-0. Östersund won't score 3 goals. And then, obviously, big games coming up as well. So I think he will rest a few players.
Thank you very much, Rami, for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
Right, that was the Ostersunds game then. And we can go over to you, Danny, for all of the scores across the board and a lone watch.
The under-23s went to Leicester City and we lost 3-1. I don't know how that's happened. We've been the most informed team in the under-23 league, apart from the fact that Leicester are, well, before the game they were just below us in the league. Now they're above us in the league. We had John Jules from the Ministry of Sound Party sent off after an hour, but by that point we were already 3-0 down. Dragomir scored a consolation goal for us right near the end. And Mavropanos played, and seeing who doesn't show the positions that people played in. But there was, I think, because most of the, I won't say decent under-23s, but the more experienced under-23s probably went with the first team to go and play in Sweden, and there be with the first team again for the return leg. That's probably why that happened. So we're now third in the league, but we're only a point behind Liverpool in first. I wonder if that means that Liverpool lost. I'm just going to go back and have a little look. Liverpool did indeed lose 1-0 at home to West Ham, so that league is still wide open. This is depressing. The under-18s lost 4-1 to Spurs. Not even going to talk about it. Move on. And the ladies, they played Millwall Lionesses in the Women's FA Cup, and we beat them 1-0. And their next game should have been against Liverpool, but that's still been postponed. The next one is going to be at home to Everton on the 23rd of February. So if you want to go along and see that, remember, mention ABW at the gate and they will have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, Alexa's now going off in my bedroom. I'm hot. It's telling me the weather.
First woman you've had in your bedroom for a while.
Hey, had my mum round earlier.
That doesn't count.
Scraping stuff off the floor. For the injuries, Ramsey has been out for 13 days, groin strain. They don't know when he'll be back. Lacazette has been out for 10 days of his knee injury, and they reckon another 5 weeks. And there's no point even mentioning Santi Cazorla, 489 days. I don't think we're going to see him again. And I've decided to pick a player out on loan for you rather than ask you. Poor old Lucas Perez. His team are just looking in the Scottish League. That's, I think, the Premier. They are 19th out of 20. They've won 1 game in their last 13 games, and that was a 1-0 home win to Leganés. And he is playing 90 minutes most games, and they've recently been smashed by Real Madrid 7-1, and he got an assist. So he's still getting a few goals and a few assists. All competitions, he's 23 games, 5 goals, 5 assists for a bloke playing for a team that have just sat their manager, got a new bloke in, but they are going down. It's a long time since the likes of Bebeto were playing there. Oh, great days. I think that's it. There's nothing else to talk about, is there? Have I covered it all?
I think you've covered it all.
Were you listening?
I was listening.
Oh, good. There you go.
Of course I was. I always listen. I feel that we should, seeing as we've got Steve on this week, we should talk about the shirts a little bit, and obviously the news that we're going to have Emirates for a little bit longer. Steve, can you tell our listeners about that? Obviously, you were going off left, right and centre in the WhatsApp group the day that they announced it. I mean, I see like 7-minute voice messages.
I listened to every single one of them. Yeah, and it was very, very good.
Right, okay, let's take it from the top, shall we? Emirates deal. People need to remember that the last Emirates deal we did, before this extension was signed, it ran, I think, to halfway to 2018. Now, this is the particular part of the deal that affects their name going on the front of the shirt and going on the training equipment, training kits, and which gave exclusivity to them to be the only advertiser on those two items. The extension takes effect from the day after the current deal regarding those shirts runs out. So the actual 5-year alleged period of the deal is actually not 5 years, because it actually includes some part of the existing deal in there, because people are not sure when it was signed or when it was renewed. So the deal is 200 million quid, allegedly. It's not that. It'll be more, because there's add-ins, bonuses and all sorts of other things in there which they tend to not publicise, because these deals are confidential. And it's over something like just over 4.25 years. The new deal is for training kits only, and for kits to be worn on the pitch, and tracksuits and things like that on the pitch. However, it doesn't have exclusivity as logos. We are allowed a sleeve sponsor, which could well net 10 or 12 million quid a year extra. So it's a big uplift on the previous deal, because it takes it right up there above Chelsea's current deal. Anybody, I say this till I'm blue in the face, if you're trying to compare Arsenal's deals to Manchester United's deals, forget it. Everybody in the Football League gave Manchester United a 15-year head start on commercial revenue. They're owned by Americans who are shit hot on it. They've got a team of 180 people working on commercial deals. Arsenal have got 25. They have got contacts in every major business in America and Europe. And Manchester United are the best in the world in it. And the only team near them are Real Madrid. Those are the two, if you like, the Ferrari and the Lamborghini of commercial revenue in the world of football. We don't have Liverpool's historical brand heritage to work off, although our commercial revenue is still bigger than theirs. There's still a big name out there in the brands. The next part, so Arsenal's commercial team have been criticised in the past for not doing enough side deals. So they have been busy. They have concluded a deal with the country of Uganda to promote Uganda as a tourism destination. But it also involves as well a lot of Arsenal work in the community. So Arsenal will be opening up soccer schools out there. They'll be taking out Arsenal coaches out there. There'll be Arsenal ethics, Arsenal morals, Arsenal diversity training going out there, which is also very good, because Uganda has some very dubious policies against certain groups. But Arsenal won't be doing a pre-season tour to Uganda. I don't think Arsenal's insurance would allow that. So that's one deal. There's also a second deal with a technology company. It's quite a big deal, financially quite a big deal, to produce 3D content, which will allow Arsenal to be able to do all their stats work and all their presentation of content on Arsenal player and selling to the media to use games in 3D for analysis programs afterwards. That's another deal. There's a third deal in the offing where they're talking to a big Chinese automotive brand, which is Cars and Parts, which is a significant figure. And then, of course, there's actually the big deals, the big in-house deal, which is the kit supplier deal. Currently is Puma. Puma has first right of refusal. It also has first matching rights. First matching rights means that they get to see the offers of all the other companies. If a company beats them, they've got the right to match it. Puma actually won the deal last time, because when they opened the negotiations, they insisted on having matching rights, and they were all given this. And Adidas had the highest deal offer, and Puma outbid them by 5 million quid. That's how they got the deal. So this time, there's way more players in the deal. There's Adidas, there's Nike, there's Under Armour, and there's, of course, Puma. It's rumoured that Adidas are in the lead. For Adidas, they don't have a London club now. They need a big name. They want a big brand that they can pump money into in London, but also they want to be associated with a brand who's doing very well in emerging markets. Arsenal is the club for emerging markets in Africa, Eastern Europe, Asia, and America. And it does very, very well in Afro-Caribbean, people of colour, Hispanic and Asian, ethnic communities in America, Britain, Eastern Europe, Western Europe. So that's the sort of area that Adidas are looking to expand into, which of course is primarily Puma's key brand area. Arsenal are Puma's flagship team in their portfolio. They were so excited to win that deal. They were really, it was a massive victory for them to beat down Adidas. I know this because at the time I was working for them under a clause of confidentiality. They were very happy to win that. I think they're going to fight very hard to want to retain it. I'm not working for any clubs, any companies in that arena now, but I think some issues that Puma would have to get over are quality. They would need also to really sort of look at the designs, because I think Adidas's designs are fantastic. They have a big heritage with Arsenal, and I think Adidas probably can put a lot more money on the table than any of the other brands can, and I think they're quite willing to do so. I'm not saying they're the favourites, but let's put it this way. What does this all mean for Arsenal? What this all means for Arsenal is that at the moment, in the last transfer window, we couldn't sign Evans from West Brom because we didn't have enough money to spend because of Premiership football financial fair play, because the percentage of our wages and transfer fees we spent would have taken us above the limit that we were allowed to spend because our commercial revenue is not high enough. So by getting this commercial revenue up substantially, it means that we can pay higher wages, more competitive wages. It means when we sign new players in the summer, we've got the money not only to sign them without going over the FFP limit, but we can also increase the wages. We can retain players that we need to retain. And it means generally the club are not being held back financially. And of course, we're doing it with the money that we're making ourselves, not money that's being pumped in by any other owner. So there you go.
Lovely stuff. Is there anyone that wants to come in on that? Jace, you got anything to say?
Not a lot, really. I mean, look, as the Nike deal at that time had to be a long-term deal, and the Emirates deals had to be long-term to secure funding for the Ashburton Grove, as was. These deals are now coming to an end naturally, and now the club have the opportunity to make hay. The new deals coming through are going to be huge, especially in comparison to what we've had. There'll be shorter term deals. They'll give us more flexibility to renew as we go along. There'll be a higher yield on them. The revenue will go through the roof. It's now down to Ivan and the guys who handle the commercial revenue to maximise the potential of these deals. There's already the talk of the sleeve deal being worth £12 million a year. And, there'll be other things coming along. Now's the time. Maybe Ivan's held off increasing the commercial revenue team due to the fact there were clauses in these deals, from securing financing for the Ashburton Grove that had to be adhered to. But now's the time for us to kick on. The amount of money we're going to earn off these deals is going to be huge. We have to utilise it on and off the pitch, and we have to really kick on and go forward. It's exciting times. Let's hope they deliver.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite clear that Gazidis was presented with such a sort of a list of things to do. He's like, well, what are the first things I've got to achieve? Right. It's taken him how long to get this new team in there and get them in there to start to take back control. He gets a non-Brexit reference in there. And he's done that. And now he's got to solve the issue with the money. So I think they're starting to do that as well. But as Jace says, the amount these deals can bring in. I mean, this shirt deal at the moment with Puma, it's 50 million. Yeah, that could go up to 85.
It's 35 million, isn't it? It's 35 million over 5 years, but we have increased revenues, don't we? That's what you said before.
No, the point is, I'm saying with Puma at the moment, the deal is 50.
Right.
And I'm talking about supplying the kit, not what goes on the front of the shirt. Don't confuse the two. So at the moment, the deal for Puma, it's the most I've ever paid, is 50 million quid. That could go up to 85 million. That, you know, and you've got to think about that. If that's a 4-year deal, that's all of a sudden that's 140 million quid that's just gone straight into the commercial revenue that can be used on wages and transfer fees.
I thought, sorry to cut across here, Steve. I thought the Puma deal was 35 million a year.
No, it was 50.
It was 50, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. Because the shirt deal was originally, it was 30, it's gone up to 40, but really now it's 52 because you've got this the sleeve thing in there. The stadium naming rights, I think it was Goonaholic that asked me about it. They're not really affected by this because they were signed off in the last deal to 2028, and really they're worthless now because everybody refers to it as the Emirates Stadium. It's in Google Maps as the Emirates Stadium. So even if the club said, "Oh right, well now we're not calling it the Emirates anymore. We're going to call it the Highbury Stadium or whatever," it's going to take at least 5 years to a decade to rub out the memory of it being called the Emirates. So until that 5 or 10 years thing is passed, really the stadium naming rights are worthless.
And it does put it into perspective as well. Okay, the club's taken a lot of stick, and I've given the club a lot of stick, etc., with sort of commercial revenues and what's been achieved. But if you look at the Puma deal that we signed 5 years ago, at that time, I know it's increased now, but was 35 million a year at the time. It was the biggest deal in football at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, and the deal Tottenham, the scum, signed with Nike last season is £22 million a year.
But that just shows you the difference in the quality of the target audiences that they're targeting, and secondly, the fact that Tottenham are not a brand which is doing well in emerging markets. Tottenham is not a brand that is going to do well abroad for shirt sales because it's perceived as English, therefore colonialist, therefore, and I'm going to say it, Brexity. It's not multinational. It's not a club that's got a good reputation for being for everybody or diverse. And if you wore a Tottenham shirt around Poland, you'd probably get your head kicked in. So it just shows you that those differences. That's what advertisers want. Advertisers want brands that are going to reach their target, their buyers and their groups. And I was talking to Danny the other day. The effect of us buying a top star player from a tiny little country like Armenia or like Gabon, the amount of fan clubs that grows and Arsenal supporters that generates in that club, they all go out and buy the kit. I mean, when we signed Fabianski and we had Szczęsny and we had Laurent Koscielny, who is half Polish, by the way, the amount of support that Arsenal got in Poland was massive, absolutely massive. The shirt sales here went through the roof. So, in Africa, in Gabon, which is a tiny little country, Aubameyang's not just the best player they've ever produced. He's probably the most famous person they've ever produced. He's their biggest national celebrity. So to have him representing your brand in that country is brilliant for a shirt manufacturer. The same with Mkhitaryan in Armenia. Now that's the draw that advertisers look for. And Arsenal's a club that it's in London, the most diverse city in Europe. It's cosmopolitan. It's modern. People are coming from, our fans are maniacs for things they do, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's what they buy into. That's the brand they get.
Yeah. I mean, you look at just doing the radio show, the amount of people who are up at stupid o'clock in the morning, not just to watch the game, but then to take part in the radio show afterwards as well.
That's all part of being the Arsenal. It's Arsenal for everybody.
It's phenomenal.
And that's another thing. How many clubs can turn around to a company like Adidas or Puma and say, we've got the biggest social media presence, we rule Twitter. If our fans decide a poll's being won, it's won. Advertisers like that shit. It not only is it funny, but I mean, if I was doing a presentation to a prospective Arsenal sponsor about how dedicated Arsenal fans are to their team, I would just show them that thread of the sins of Arsenal Twitter that someone's made, the idiocy that's gone on. It's hilarious. But it just shows you how keen and dedicated people are to support their brand. support their team, rather.
And it does show the positive side of it as well. As much as we've seen sort of the negative side recently, we no need to go of old ground, but from a personal perspective, the amount of top people I've met, through doing this podcast, through doing the radio show, through Twitter, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And when they give us some stick and when they take the mickey out of us, it's fantastic. And for all that we've seen the negative side of social media, with the stuff towards Granit Xhaka, etc. It's been happening for years. It's happened to Ramsey. It's happened to a number of our players. For as much as we see a few idiots do that, we see a phenomenally wonderful thing. And on the flip side of, you get to talk to people on the other side of the world about football and about the Arsenal. And that's a massive pull for anybody who wants to invest in a football club, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also as well that for all these idiots that do go and say wrong things, then you've got people that do great things like Jermaine Defoe and Sunderland did with that poor lad who was suffering from cancer. And the whole of the football world united behind that on social media. And everybody got on with it and tried to do something really positive and really good. I think Arsenal's leading the way against gay discrimination and all that sort of thing that's happened on social media, even amongst our own fans. That's caused huge debate and huge arguments between different cultures on different continents. But the end result of it has been that Arsenal's brand have come out as being shown of, we can take on difficult subjects and we can try and educate people and we can try, we give these people a platform and the team supports it. And it doesn't hurt us or you to do it. And I think that's a very brave thing to do in marketing today, in a world where it's so easy to go online and dump an incendiary comment or throw a grenade through the window, or an abusive comment. And that's not just confined to football, is it? I mean, the amount of pop singers. Look at the abuse Lily Allen gets on Twitter, the abuse some of the actresses get. Or actors get even. So it's not just confined to football. It is, as Rami said, it's society, it's modern life, sadly. But it does, as Jason says, have so many good sides.
Danny, let's have some listener questions.
Oh, cheeky. I like where you're going with that. I'm just checking on the latest scores, and we have one of our players playing on loan. Bramall is on loan at Birmingham at the moment. They're 3-0 down after 51 minutes, and Jenkinson is on the bench. So hopefully we might see Corporal Jenkinson come on, score 3 or 4 goals, and bring that back. Oh, God, why do we let them go there? Right, some questions. First of all, this is one for everybody. Actually, no, this one will be for Steve first. For Mr. Arsenal 93. For Steve, what's your favourite Polish dish?
It would be a soup called żurek, which is made from sour yeast dough, and it has herbs in it, and it's white, off-coloured white, and it's cooked with białe kielbasa, white sausage, which is a bit close to English pork sausage with a lot of herbs. I would say it's like a West Country sausage. And it has 2 halves of a pre-cooked, floating, half hard-boiled egg in it. And it's just what you want when you come in from a fucking hard day at work in -15.
That sounds absolutely delicious, Steve. Can you tell that I'm lying?
I thought he was going to say Wojciech Szczesny then.
No, if I was going to talk about those sort of dishes, it would be Polish women in general, but we can't go into that subject. I might get I might get in trouble.
I might as well ask Jace. Jace, what's your favourite Welsh dish? Sounds like you're eating it now, you cheeky monkey.
That's not me.
Isn't it?
That's the Paul.
Oh, jeez, what's he scoffing down sweets at an alarming rate between questions?
Yeah, I to be honest with you, 10 pints and all, and a kebab.
Gimli, in all your years of living in Jason's country, what's your favourite? Getting feedback again, Jace. Stop moving. What's your favourite Welsh dish that you've had, Gimli?
Amphetamine and Happy Shopper energy can.
There you go, people. That is that goes back a fair few years.
Confirm that is actually a Welsh dish, isn't it?
No, it's not.
It is.
Twat.
It fucking is.
It's a midget dish from Oxfordshire.
No, I don't touch the stuff.
And my favourite would be anything with meat that it hasn't got a face, and anything with potatoes.
Yeah,
and
go on,
about
Danny.
my weight growth.
What's your favourite English dish?
Pepper pig.
It'd be a roast chicken. Or if you're going to get roast beef that isn't all yucky and got that tendons in it, but I'd stick with roast chicken. Done nicely. One of those yellow chickens. And
now we know why Colonel Saunders ran out of chicken this week. Danny's had it all.
I wouldn't eat KFC, that dirty stuff that's been on the floor for a week. If you paid me, well, I used to love a zinger, but then I'd have to zing home as quick as possible to deal with the consequences of a zinger. Yeah, but chicken, I don't really care about food actually.
That's bollocks.
I don't know. Well, you don't know me. I went to Five Guys Burger on Saturday. We went to Cambridge to see Richard Herring. He was quite good. He said the C word far too many times for my liking, but yeah, went to Five Guys. 14 quid for a burger and chips. That'd take out a bloody mortgage, and it was freezing cold. There you go. Right, next question is from Bend It Like Beckham. This is to everybody, so listen carefully. Gather round. I'll say this only once. If you could rename Emirates to something else, what would it be? I would name it the Cash Hungry Whore Stadium. Gimli.
I would go the Pornhub Arena.
Oh, hello, cheeky. After your own heart.
Yeah.
Steve? I bet you got something sensible, though, haven't you?
The Highbury Stadium.
Oh, because with the old... Oh, God, William scored. With the old stadium, it was Avenel Road, it was the Highbury Stadium, and it was Arsenal Stadium. Did they change that along with time? I've just been having a look at Wikipedia, and I'm none the wise. I should ask Mark or Andy, really, shouldn't I?
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm going a bit too loud these days, but I would rename it the Highbury Stadium.
I think you get my vote there. Jace, what would you name it? Something to do with rugby, I take it?
I would call it Arsene Wenger Avenue to annoy a whole lot of people.
You are a tease.
Oh, I tell you what, okay. And I'd name one stand Arsene stand, the other stand the Wenger stand, the Invincible stand, and I'd just rub it in certain people's noses.
And the Cronky stand for the standing bit.
No, I wouldn't go that low. I wouldn't go that low.
Right, this next question will go to you, Jace, if you can stop wiggling so we can hear you properly.
Sorry.
From Noir Confidential. Everyone's talking about how we need Ramsey to tie down a new contract since it runs out next summer. So why does Monreal's, and no one's talking about him? I've got a cold, people, I can't see properly. What do you think the club should do and will do with the Spaniard? And Darren Arsenal has just tweeted that the Ramsey contract deal has stalled because his representative from that company, his agent's company, has left the company. And so he's put it like this. The agent has set up a new agency called Avid Sports, and Ramsey will move to them from base once his base agreement expires. Club has to wait for this timing issue to try and get a new deal agreed. So it looks like his agent's buggered off, set up on his own and bringing Ramsey with him. What do we do about Monreal, Chase?
Look, the big difference between Monreal and Ramsey is age. Nacho Monreal is at a certain age now, okay? I don't see Nacho being a difficult one to tie down. Okay, the big thing for Nacho is he'll earn more at the Arsenal than he will in Spain, and it's who would be in for Nacho Monreal. They're not going to go for a 31-year-old. He would be a value signing for a club.
He's 32 next week, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. So he'd be a 32-year-old who'd be a value signing, and he'd want to go somewhere to maybe end his career. So Nacho's not a big deal. He'll earn more in the Premier League than he will in Spain. So, if he's happy, they'll come to an agreement. With regards to Ramsey, Ramsey would probably be wanted by other competitor clubs. If you look at sort of who's up for renewal at the moment, who's going to buy these players? Who would come in? For Ramsey, if he didn't sign a new contract, he could maybe go abroad. There's a host of clubs who'd be in for a player of his ability. And you get the big signing on fee. It doesn't really apply to Nacho, the same with Jack, who's going to take him? Who's going to take the gamble, etc.? These things, it's all well and good saying, it's a certainty Jack will sign. Well, it is really, because it'll be West Ham or Everton, and he wants to stay by his kids. United and City aren't going to come in and pay 40 million for him.
Not anymore.
And that's unfortunately down to injuries that he's suffered over the years. So that's the reason for the hullabaloo around the Ramsey situation at the moment. But who knows what's going to happen? Who knows?
As long as he gets the number 3 shirt next season, I don't care. And Bellerin gets the 2. Right, one for you, little Gimli. You there?
Yes, I'm here.
You set up straight?
I'm set up straight.
Right, from Yonko Abs. Should we go to a 4-5-1 at Wembley and catch them on the break, or attack like we do most of the time? And I think it's been reported that Claudio Bravo is going to be in goal for them, which is probably a good thing for us.
I'm not sure. I to be honest with you, I really, really fear the City game. I know it's at Wembley, but it has the possibility to be an absolute dicking in disguise if we're not careful. I'm not sure how we go about playing against them. I don't know if anybody else would.
Do you know what I do? I would sit back against them, and I would try and hit them on the break. But I'll tell you what I would do. Bearing in mind that Aubameyang can play, I would play 2 other players up front, who are very fast as well. And I would tell them that the minute that Claudio Bravo's got the ball, or the minute Walker's got the ball, or Stones has got the ball, press all 3 of those two and the keeper. And the player next to the other one, who's the keeper's out, has got to go and get close to them, because the amount of fuck-ups they made the other night against Wigan, and that's what Wigan did to them. Wigan sat back, they stopped De Silva and they stopped De Bruyne by crowding them out and rotor-fouling them, and they hit them on the break a couple of times. They got nowhere, but all of a sudden, Will Griggs managed to force an error out of fucking Kyle Walker, and they were in like Flynn. And that's what we've got to do. And we've beaten City before. It's a big pitch. It's a pitch for passing teams to play. My main worry is that Wenger gets all romantic and decides he's going to outplay Guardiola, and we all know how that ends. Anal rape on Wembley at 11-0.
But people said that last season in the semi-final.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but I think Guardiola will be ready for some of that. But I don't think he'll be ready to expect for us to use the press so high like that. But, it all depends on 2 things. Someone's got to nail Koscielny down into our half so he can't go up in their half and become John Stones II. And the other thing is that you've got to fucking defend. And there was one sort of final thing I wanted to ask Rami earlier on, that is about communication between the keeper and the back 4, and how big a thing it is for Czech to have the only English speaker he's got there is fucking Bellerin. It is a wonder, isn't it? But we'll just to see how it goes.
Fair enough, can't argue with that. Well, you could do, but you'd be wrong. Right, this one is for Jace from Nicky Wilson. Always has a cheeky question. Jurgen Klopp did a Wenger last week and said the top 4 is like a trophy. So what order do you rank the main 4 trophies, and do you rank top 4 above any of them? Ooh, so most important trophy, Jace?
Premier League.
I agree. Does anybody disagree?
No.
Steve?
No.
Good. Next one, Jace?
Champions League.
Are we all agreed on that? I think we are.
Yeah.
The next one, Jace?
Top 4.
Oh, above the FA Cup. Nice, I suppose.
Yeah, and the reason for that is the revenues, attracting players, everything the Champions League brings to the club. I mean, it's lovely winning the FA Cup. It's been fantastic the last few seasons, winning 3 out of 4 seasons. But, if you look at it, we've become so used to being in Champions League, and it's a great credit to Wenger that he finished, 20 years in the trot. People try to belittle that achievement, and to try to belittle that is utter bollocks. Chelsea failed to get into top 4. Man United failed. You know what I mean? We've seen all the big clubs fail at it. but the revenue it brings in, those extra big nights at the stadium, it's a massive thing in football nowadays. And the FA Cup is special, but, you know, I do rank top 4 above that.
And the League Cup will be 4th, I take it.
Yeah.
Or the Emirates Cup. Which one? Because we never win either.
Behave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question is for Steve from Sri Guna. Is there a way to fuse Jack Wilshere's dribbling ability and an informed Xhaka's distribution ability to get a Santi replacement? If not, is there a ready-made replacement in the market?
No, there isn't a way to fuse Jack's dribbling ability, because Jack's dribbling ability is what gets him injured and what makes him lose the ball. With an on-form Xhaka, because first of all, Xhaka needs to have a different midfield and a different coach to be the Xhaka he is for Switzerland. Is there a person that you're going to buy out there to buy a Santi? I can't think of a single player who's as ambidextrous feet-wise as he is, who is that quick with his feet, apart from a certain little man who plays up front for Lionel Messi, and he's not off for sale. I don't see there is. I think Arsenal got now to look at a different way of playing their central midfield. I think that question's not going to get solved until we get a new coach. But I think, you know, if you look at the players we got, they don't suit each other in central midfield. The Ramsey Jack situation, that always strikes me as Arsenal's Steven Gerrard Lampard for England situation. It looks good on paper, but it never quite works on practice.
Bear with me a second, Steve. They haven't.
I know I mentioned your trigger.
No. They haven't.
I know I'm in the middle of something, and I just mentioned your trigger word, and you had to jump in because I mentioned Ramsey. I know they haven't played for years, but the point is this: they're not going to, because they only ever get picked if the other one's injured. And let's be fair: if Aaron Ramsey's fit, Jack doesn't get to play. Unless
you could play Jack in a holding role, couldn't you?
Well, I don't know if you could. I don't know if you could trust him to.
He did it for England.
Oh, Jack. Sorry, I thought you said Xhaka.
No, the Jack. Yeah.
No, you could do, but I just think the two of them, they just don't work. And I think because of injuries, they're not likely to get the facility to play enough games together to make it gel. But my biggest problem is the fact that as a unit, it doesn't work in defending the defence, and it doesn't work going forwards. It doesn't fit with Mesut Ozil. So what do? Do you say, right, well, we're going to change the way we coach you? That would make a big difference. Or do you go out there and just say, look, let's stop fucking about. Let's go and buy Jean-Michel Seri, who is a player who can run a game, who can do the box-to-box, and who can sit back and do nasty shit, and make him the central focus, or someone like him a central focus of the midfield, who's going to build a partnership with Ozil. And when they've got players knitted around them like Ramsey or Jack or Xhaka, that gives you so many options, because you can... Barcelona just equalised. Messi finally scored against Chelsea. When you've got those options, that means you can then do tactics that teams don't know what to expect. I wouldn't ever want to see Aaron Ramsey leave the club. His late runs into the box, his ability to go into places where others don't want to look is invaluable. Jack can come on in games and do things. I'm not so sure that he can play so many games in the season he can have an influence. But Mohamed El Neni, a lot of people see him as an average player, but he's been quite astute in that role of switching between playing with Xhaka and sticking himself in front of the back four, and even slotting in as part of the back four. So, to answer the question, no, you can't replace Santi Cazorla. I think he was an original. And secondly, I think you can't continue to play with this mishmash of midfield, because, as Jason said, so many of them have not played together because of various factors. But it doesn't work when some of them do anyway. So we need a central focus point there, which is new, in my opinion, for them to sort of regroup around.
But the thing is, you need a system, don't you?
Yeah, well, and we don't have one.
Yeah, and we're going from 2-1 week to 3 the next. The thing about El Nene's success recently is he's just been the glue. No frills, just be the glue that holds all together.
Buy your own fucking glue.
But the thing about Jack and Sir Ramsey, you know, they've never really been allowed to play together. And this is the thing, when people say they can't, I don't buy that for 1 second. But, you know, you'd have to find a system to allow, it doesn't matter who it is in this team. This is the thing, it doesn't matter who it is in this team. I don't think we play to anybody's strengths at the moment, you know. And you know, it's a midfield is not about one player. It's about a next man up mentality. It's about putting a system in place which allows, you know, these guys to flourish. And if somebody is injured, right, next man comes in, does the same job. And that way you get continuity of performance.
I think a good way to describe it would be that Arsenal really have suffered from having a lack of a continual spine, and they need to go and see a fucking osteopath as quick as possible.
God, it's like those two blokes on a Muppet. I can't get a bloody word in edgeways. I was going to say Cesc Fabregas, but I've just seen the way him and Moses have defended against Barcelona. And...
Yeah, that's a 5 minutes time out for you. Oh, Suarez getting booked. There's a nice thing.
Steve, I'm a minute and a half behind you. You're ruining it for me.
This just serves you right for watching it by illegal means. Is all I've got.
How dare you? I pay good money for this service, sir.
It's a legal service.
You know, Cesc scored more goals in one season for us than he has in his entire Chelsea career.
I don't care. He went to the Grand Prix and faked injury. Fuck off. Next subject. He's a cunt.
Yeah, there you go, people. You can get that on a T-shirt for only $99.99. This next one is for you, Gimli, from Hyro. He's told me how to pronounce that. He said he's had 25 years of experience of explaining to people how to say his name, Hyro. And he says, should we dive more?
No, because I wouldn't want to associate ourselves with that lily white shit up the road.
Diving against a league team.
And plus, you just know Arsenal wouldn't get away with it.
No, he wouldn't. Much like, should our players punch away fans more then and get away with that? Or attack hard managers at half time?
No, for the same reason. We actually would get punished for that, whereas other clubs just turn a blind eye.
Okay, all right. This one for you, Jace, from Mr. Schwinn, Bada Schwinn. He says, with the rise of social media, we have seen a cycle of repetitive criticism towards today's footballers. Do you think this is something players pay attention to? What would be your advice to current players for dealing with it? You deal with a lot of this in the WhatsApp group, don't you, Jace? It's constant having a go at you. And sometimes I know it gets you down, doesn't it? You have a little moment.
Yeah. Look, it's modern life, as Rami said earlier on, okay? You know, the thing about if you play football for the Arsenal nowadays, or the top clubs, you get paid a lot of money, okay? You're prepared to take the plaudits. You're prepared to have your name sung in the stadium. You know, you get all those little side deals. It's a nice life. I know it's a short career, but it's a nice lifestyle. With that, there comes, you know, the dark side of it, so to speak, where if you know, and I don't think it's even whether you perform or don't perform, it's perceived, everything's perceived. You know, it's this perception nowadays where people, you know, then start having a go, and, you know, the stuff that, you know, Ramsey, Granit Xhaka, and there'll be others have had to put up with, the death threats, you know, the Hector Bellerin business this week has been nothing short of disgraceful. And you know, we use this platform as a way of communicating with people. You know, sometimes we get a bit of grief. So what? You know, there's only one time I think I've reacted to it, and that's when somebody accused us of being racist, which, you know, was bang out of order. And that did get my attention. That did get a reply. Other than that, you know, it's some guy in his mother's bedroom on thing, you know, it's going to say something stupid like that. Do you know what I mean? You've got to ignore it, because otherwise you're not going to get on with life. You've got, you know, they know how to, you know, the clubs have people who talk them through this sort of thing and who help them, you know? You have to actually just, you know, just carry on living life and do whatever you want to do. You know, at the end of the day, you know, some guy talking bollocks in his car, you know, as opposed to a guy who's represented the Arsenal over 100 times, played for his country, etc. You know, one of them's a mug, the other one's not a mug. And, you know, he's not going to pay too much attention. He's going to get on with his life and live it. But, you know, it gets pathetic at times. It really does get pathetic. And you've just, you know, it's water for ducks back. Oh, no, somebody called me a name on social media. Fuck him.
Story of Gimli's life, really. It's even some of I've set up for fake accounts. I mean, there's not a day that Shitter doesn't mug Gimli off, is there, mate?
No, I've just
sad times.
All day, every day.
You and Shitter.
I know. It's a relationship that ended badly and got worse.
Bugger 'em. Right, final question is going to go to Steve from Marcus Brown, spelt with a K. What do you guys think about the reports of Wenger having the power to decide his future come the end of the season? Steve?
I take it with a huge pinch of salt. Arsene Wenger's got a year left. I think the club's put a new management system in there. That new management system is now effectively taking control of the club in commercial deals, in making big statements like all three of them going out to Germany and being seen and signing Aubameyang and doing the money side of it and deciding his wages. That team, may I point out, minus Dicky Boy, with the team that re-signed Mesut Ozil. Mesut Ozil's family refused to talk to Dick Law. Dick Law. They wanted to talk to Josh Kroenke. They ended up talking to the new people, and the deal was done. And yeah, the Aubameyang deal was sticky, but they will get to realise their own way of doing deals and change them the way that Arsenal have been in the past. I'm sure Sané will be a big influence there. I think Arsenal's going to be put in a situation. It's like this: if we don't win the Europa League and we don't get top four, I think they'll be saying to him, "Look, you know, really, if he's won the League Cup, really, I think it's time you go at the end of the season where we've got a whole pre-season to get the new manager in. They've probably got someone they've already agreed to do it. I think, whether it's this year or the year after." And they'll be prepared to pay compensations of their club if they have to, etc., etc. But I think it's likely that he will go at the end of this season. I can't see him wanting to stay on. There were even hints that he tried to leave at the end of last season. They asked him not to and put this 2-year deal in place so that they'd have time to sort everything out. There is a second scenario, of course, that he may want to stay. However, he may well not like the terms that he's offered to stay in the final year. They can say, well, yeah, you know, you can stay, but your role now is as a coach. We decide who gets bought. We decide who's getting paid what, because you won't be here after a year after that contract. And he may not like that, and he may choose to walk. And Arsenal will sell it as, we've called it time, and he's off, and he's been a great servant to the club, and there'll be a huge thing of all the great things he's done and all what he's brought to the club and blah, 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 blah. This is his last contract, in my opinion.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and hopefully you're right, and he will go out in style, and people appreciate all the stuff he's done for us. Because it's too easy. It's too easy now just to go, oh shit. No.
Well, let's be honest. We live in a world where being detrimental towards somebody's achievements is second nature. You know what I mean? It's
attention.
It's the bottom line of, oh, you fucking shit, you're this, you're that. You know what I mean? Nobody recognises a man's achievements anymore. You know, and it's a bit sad.
But well, I think they do. But I just think it's like one of my Brexit analogies, isn't it? Who the fuck?
Oh, fucking Brexit again.
But it's got relevance, Jason. Who in 10 years' time is going to look back at what Arsene Wenger's achieved and go, yeah, but Highbury Harold, aged 57, of wherever, said he was a cunt for 5 years on the spot. Yeah. I'm not digging out Highbury Harold there. I'm just making a point. No one's going to care what any of those fan groups had to say, because they're going to look there and go, oh yeah, he won the fucking FA Cup more than anybody else. He did the double in his first 2 seasons, and he's the only man who ever had an invincible season, and he transformed British football with science.
Yeah, but it's that hindsight thing, isn't it? It's hindsight gives you that.
Yeah.
At the moment, everything's in the moment. It's the Twitter analogy, as you say, where, it's all about the next 5 minutes. It's all about this next news cycle.
If it was up to today's society, Winston Churchill would be the biggest failure out, wouldn't he?
It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, indeed.
Predictions now, Mr. Gimli, and then a few shout-outs, and then we can all go home and I can take some flu medication.
Yes. Lovely stuff. We got some predictions, and I believe we've got 2 this week, which is Ostersunds at home and Man City at Wembley. So, Danny, we'll start with you then. I'd like both predictions.
Oh, both at once. I'm going to go Ostersunds going to be 2-0 Welbeck. They're going to be a little bit more up for it, but I think we're going to see a hell of a lot of players rested. So I wouldn't even be surprised if they maybe score a goal. And the final, oh dear. I do think we can do something against them. So maybe I'm going to go 1-1, and then we're going to beat him on penalties. Because we'll have Ospina in goal, not Czech.
Wonderful. And you did both of them, didn't you?
I didn't do my scorer. My scorer is going to be Aguero, because he should be banned. Yeah. So, Steve.
Marvellous. Steve?
Well, Ostersunds, I actually think they'll show up for this. There might be a bit of a pain in the arse, but I think we'll win it 3-1. First scorer will be... very interesting to see who might play, actually. It won't be Welbeck because he'll be too busy flailing around like an elephant on LSD in a china shop. Ozil.
Oh, you think he's playing again?
Yeah, he will play again. He can't afford to lose that game. Man City in the final, I think it'll be very, very tough. They will score. I think we'll beat them 2-1. And I think the first scorer will be Prince Harry, a.k.a. Kevin De Bruyne. I can't call him by the other name I usually call him. It's a bit politically incorrect.
Ginger Kev.
No.
Don't say it. I know you're tempted.
I'm trying to think what it is.
Oh, don't start you off. You trigger Jason again.
Ramsey. Brexit.
You're gonna trigger one of them. They're gonna. If they go at the same time, be like popcorn.
It's like when I go into one of the kitchen shops and I see the egg timers and I turn them all to about 5 minutes. Just fucking walk around the shop and wait for them all to go off. So go on then, Ramsey.
What am I doing?
You're doing a prediction for Ostersunds at home and Man City at Wembley.
Right, it's Ostersund, not Ostersunds.
It's coming from you.
No, we've been told about it this week, haven't we? Swedish Freddy.
Last week.
Swedish Freddy told us about it.
Did he? Okay,
yeah. 5-0 to the Arsenal.
Sorry.
5-0?
Yeah.
Bearing in mind we're going to be playing the kids.
Yeah.
And scorer? A youth player. Sounds quite jolly.
I'm trying to think.
Where's he from?
Eddie.
Why did he sound that like he had problems?
I don't know. Have you fallen over? Are you numb down one side of your face?
It wasn't me. It was Steve. It wasn't me.
So, did you pick Eddie?
No.
For fuck's sake. What a waste of typing. Get on with it. Pick a player.
Fucking Poland is acting like a moron. I'll tell you, Reece Nelson.
Lovely. And I'm going 2-1.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fucking hell.
This might take another hour, listeners. Fast forward a bit.
3-1 to the Arsenal.
Deluded as always. Scorer. And Percy.
Aubameyang. No.
No.
All right, I'm going Ostersunds at home. Yeah. 2-1 Nketiah. And Man City, I'm going 2-1 to Arsenal, Aubameyang.
Fuck me, that only took an hour. Sorry, listeners. Oh, we've got shout-outs. This is going to be even worse.
Oh, lovely. Steve, let's go to you for your shout-out first.
Well, mine's a bit of a double, but it's not. My shout-out is to Simon Richard, AFC. You find him at Simon Richard AFC. Because I'm banned by Neil Custis, alias Neil Custard of The Sun. And Neil Custard has got a habit of making a complete cunt of himself on Twitter. He thinks he's so important because he works at The Sun. He's a big fat Geordie wretch who got slagged off by Louis van Gaal for eating the buffet at Man United. And he called him the fat man from The Sun. And Custis got up his own arse about it and went on a diet publicly in The Sun and didn't lose any weight and got slagged off by loads of people. He then sent a series of spurious tweets to Aeroflot complaining that you didn't hold my flight for me, as if he was like, Elizabeth Taylor. And today, Simon sent me another one of his incidents involving Neil Custard and airlines. Aviation history made by Ryanair, who charged me £2.80 for a cup of hot water. Underneath, there is a tweet from Gaz, a Manc fan. Are you making your own gravy mid-flight, Neil? Underneath, there's another one, and it says, are you making custard?
You need to set up another account just so you can interact.
Well, no, but there is an Arsenal fan. I can't remember, her name is Babs, and she's got a whole every single Neil Custis incident on Twitter and in social media. She's got in there. I'll have to forward it to everybody. It is absolutely hysterical.
Oh dear.
And no, and this is the other thing, that he even fights with other journos. So he had another big, massive fight with Jonathan Liu because you got an award and I didn't get one. And he's got a thing about people who've got blue ticks because Twitter won't give him one because he's a prick. And he attacks other journos who also take the piss out of him. Collins and myself are always killing ourselves laughing over this. And it's all because he works at The Sun and he thinks he should be Henry Winter. The only problem is that he's a fat, illiterate Geordie git.
Is he a bit Brexity as well?
No, he's just fat and hideous.
What if he was Brexity? That would be your trifecta, wouldn't it?
Oh, I don't really care. This is the worst thing. He's an alleged Geordie Newcastle fan, but he's always licking the ring piece of Manchester United and Jose Mourinho.
Well, there you go. There you go, Gimli. Can we top that?
Not really. Jace, your attempt.
I'm watching the Dele Alli Champions League tie here. Fuck me. Besiktas and Bayern have dived around this pitch like a bunch of cunts. What a fucking shower of shite. It's been disgraceful. I got a shout out. It's to Anon at Kofi Ananya. That's KOFIANNANYA. He's a gooner from Sydney. He's a top laugh. Knows his rugby as well. He's top notch. Give him a follow. Have a chat with him.
Danny.
Right, this is a little bit of upcoming pod stuff. We've got Jock, who's a friend of ours. That's at JOKMANAFC. He's agreed to come on and do a podcast about his new book, which is Almost Invincible, The Class of 91. And it's going to be him, and it's going to be hopefully Jeff Hullenfunden and I think Mr. Hollick. They've both had a finger in that pie book of his. And also Andy Kelly, who is Gooner_AK, along with Mark Andrews, who is Royal Arsenal MRA. They are also both coming on for another podcast where their new book, Royal Arsenal Champions of the South. And I think Gav's going to be joining us with that one. And he's actually gone out and bought himself a set of Ethernet stuff that you use for the podcasting game because his granddad was at the game, some of the games. So yeah, just say hello to those three. And Legends Publishing, that's who are publishing their books. And I've pre-ordered mine, cost me £42, worth every penny. And that's going to be... Oh, and also, I didn't see that at the bottom. Also, Stilberto, he had a hand in writing the book as well, and that's Tim Stillman. So go and follow all of those. They're all friends of the pod. They've all been on before.
Yes.
Go and buy the books, people.
Go and do it. My shout out this week is not for a person, it's for a podcast. And that podcast is at @clockend_talk. And I was on their podcast on Sunday, and a very good time I had indeed. So a big hello to them, and go and give it a listen if you haven't already.
It's very good, and I think it's 56 minutes you want to fast forward to if you want to hear Gimli's bit, or possibly 46. In fact, listen to it all.
Listen to it all, because it's not just about me. They're a good bunch of guys. They've got a really good podcast and some good opinions on there as well. So I think that's definitely one to watch for the future, Danny. Anything else we need to talk about this evening?
No, not really. I think that's everything. Next week's pod is it going to be on Tuesday next week?
Yeah, I think so.
We're going to have them on Tuesdays because you're busy in your minibus on a Tuesday, aren't you? You like to have a little break from it on a Monday.
I do like to have a little break, but sometimes we'll be there on a Monday when we can do it. But yeah, it's all about time and if we can get us all together.
Yes.
But we've been booking some good guests, and I should tell you now we have an Invincible that's going to be coming on. Hopefully we can get him booked in for March. It is looking quite good, but there's definitely much more to look forward to.
And if people want to follow Rami on Twitter, it's at SHAABANRAMI, Shaaban Rami, and he's very particular of who he follows. So yes, he's got.
Follows me, he can't be that particular.
No, he's not actually, is he? He follows exactly 100 people. That's what I like to see, an even number.
Yeah, so that's good. Right then, all that's left is to thank my wonderful guests tonight. Steve, Jason, Rami, Danny, you had to be here.
Oh, and you had to be here.
I did have to be here. And
how was it?
Yeah, but it was just... I've had the gayest of times.
It was like a podcast equivalent of Will and Grace.
I don't know what that is.
You're missing a treat there.
I don't think so.
So that makes you Will and Grace. So which one? What does that leave me and Jason? Am I the vituperative American verb, the big tits, or am I Jack?
You can be Jack because I quite like the short lady.
I'm not. No, I'm sorry. I'm not having that analogy.
No. No.
Can't we do a Fraser one? A Frasier one? He's definitely the old. Steve's definitely the old man.
Miserable.
He passed away recently, poor bugger.
Yeah, he did.
Brilliant actor. Superb actor.
English as well.
Yeah.
Did you see the thing he did where he said, if you're watching this, I'm probably dead? It was on YouTube. It was fucking hilarious. It was supposed to be one of the issues of Frasier. And he did it. And apparently the two guys that, the Frasier play Frasier Crane and his brother, they were so cut up by it because they were very, very close to him. And one of them said, he in the essence, that this bloke was actually his dad, And they didn't put it in the in the show. This is one of my favourite all-time shows.
Superb show. Superb.
Certainly was.
Jason would definitely be the sports guy who came in the studio.
Oh no, I'm not that shallow.
No, but you are that annoying.
Don't trigger him again. Quickly, Kim. Wrap this up before Jace gets triggered.
Yes, I haven't said these magic words, so let's do it. So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and keep it Arsenal. Good night.
Goodbye.
And here's some more shenanigans after the podcast ended.
And keep it Arsenal. Good night.
Goodbye.
Just see Messi's goal. That's some shit defending.
Yep, by Barca DNA boy himself.
Always nice to see Cesc Fabregas fuck it up in Barcelona's favour.
What was the
always
final score?
1-1. It's good. Poor old Conte having a workout on the touchline. Got a feel for him.
Don't worry, it'll be all the more hideous when they get cheated out of it at the Cheetalona Nou Camp.
Ramsey. Go on.
Hold on, you said the trigger word there.
Ramsey is the player at the club who's played more games than anyone else with 316, Cos 312, and then Per 221. There you go.
That'll be funny. The Ramsey thing bores me to tears. It does. His stats do all the talking.
Here he goes.
Oh, he's off. I need a safe space.
I want to make a register a complaint that when he scored a hat trick, I was really hoping for a fucking triple death of Katie Hopkins, Nigel Farage, and fucking some other ardent Brexit.
Donald Trump.
And Donald Trump, and it just proved that the Ramsey curse was the bollocks that we always said it was.
That would have been fucking brilliant, wouldn't it? All three of them fucking croaking it that afternoon.
Yeah, it would have been great, wouldn't it? You probably best cut this bit out. It may not go down well with some of our alt-right listeners.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
That's me you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about LBC fucking Harry on the fucking left there. or should I say on the fucking right?
I'm so far right, I'm back round the left again. I'm a human daisy chain.
I don't get it, see, I mean, this is the thing. If all the people you like got into power, Danny, they'd kill you.
Oh, they're trying to anyway. They're trying to get rid of me.
That's a shame. You're all right.
Wheelchair access.
Yeah. Freeze blocks everywhere.
Honestly, boys, this Bayern Besiktas game's a fucking joke.
What's the score? Last time it's 4-0.
It was 5-0, it was. They were diving, everyone. They were all diving around like fucking ballerinas.
Who were Bayern?
All of them. Besiktas, Bayern. Lewandowski's a cheating cunt as well.
Oh, massively. I mean, he's terrible. He got cost sent off for fuck all, and that was a Dele Alli job.
Yeah.
But that actually, while we're in the extras, we're talking about diving. Let's bring up that despicable little cunt. Imagine being such a fucking two bob outfit. You go to play Newport, and you barely fucking scrape through that, and you need a fucking, you need to desperately scrape through that. You then go and play a League One side, and there's all the local people there, and you go in their box and you dive, and you could have got that player sent off to smash the hopes of a load of little kids watching their local heroes, and you have to bring on Harry Kane, England's best striker, to try and beat a side that your reserves should comfortably be pissing all over. The new bloke they've bought, what's his name?
Lucas Moura.
Lucas Moura looks like a poor man's Andrex Townsend, a neutered Theo Walcott. I mean, mate, if that's the extent of your fucking catalogue of searing runs, you may as well fucking just book yourself on the plane to fucking Newcastle, because that's where you're.
Frustrates him.
He's going to fucking, he'll be, that's where he'll end up. But, I mean, and isn't karma such a bitch, yeah? And what a great goal they carved out, to go straight up the other end and score an equaliser in the 95th minute to get their replay at Wembley. But, this is a point where everyone's going, oh, yeah, it's great. They got a replay at Wembley. Yeah, but they shouldn't have a replay at Wembley. They should be in the next round against someone else. Tottenham should be fucking out.
Sian rang me from Nottingham. She's still at uni there, even though they're broken up last night at 3 a.m. They're all pissed up sitting in McDonald's, behaving themselves, about 6 of them. And one of them is this northern bloke, and he's a Spurs fan. And he kept going, singing all the songs. I said, what's your problem? And he went, Arsenal was shit, Spurs are brilliant. I said, yeah, but what have you won? When was the last time you won a trophy? You probably weren't even born. They went, that's not the point. I said, well, listen to my mate Lee, who, Gimli, you were arguing with him on Twitter the other day. He's a good mate of mine, Lee Smith, so don't be too mean to him.
But he still uses mum jokes. Who does that?
I didn't see that. I didn't see what he did anyway.
How old is he, Danny? Just out of curiosity.
34.
Well, he acts like he's about fucking 6.
And then I say to him, well, what is the point then? You've not won anything. What did they won the League Cup in, what was it, 2008? The last time they won the FA Cup was, 91? So what does count then? What does count as success? Because God knows your players aren't going to be there in a couple of years' time when they're all on the highest paid players on 80 grand a week. We've won 3 FA Cups in 4 years. What have you won? Oh, that's not the point. And you think at that point, well, there's no point even fucking talking to you, is there?
Oh, they're fucking morons, mate. The thing is, when we were talking around about the commercial revenue side of it, that's really going to start to show now. You look at these deals coming through. They can't pick up. They couldn't pick up a hooker in a brothel, right? The
worst thing for them is that their stadium costs, which started out at 6 million, went up to 800.
Yeah.
Because the pound weakening because of the Brexit referendum. Then, when they were forced by these banks, these banks, they borrowed this syndicated loan deal.
Yeah.
The 345 million quid. Let's forget that Mr. Joe Bananas, who was George Soros's right-hand man in crashing the pound in Norman Lamont's day, was where they got all their fucking billions from. He hasn't put a penny of his own money into this.
No. He's at the Bahamas, isn't he, Joe?
Yeah, well, of course he has. He's got as much money as George Soros has, because they bankrupted the pound in Britain, didn't they? But of course, it's always Soros that gets fingered for it, but Joe Bananas was right in there with him, I can tell you. But because of Brexit and because of the fact that they need specialised foreign labour to complete that project and specialised materials from abroad, the cost is now up to £800 million and escalating. Now, bearing in mind that it's got another 3 years to build, and the day that we leave the European Union and the button's pressed, the pound will be worth like 50 euro cents. They could well end up with a bill for a stadium the same as Kroenke's going to get for the one he's building in America, £1 billion. Now, and as Jason says, they're not getting the commercial deals in to get that. The banks have got conditions on how much wages and transfers they can spend. This thing could be the lead weight around their fucking neck. That they are going to have to. They're going to lose Toby Alderweireld this summer. They're going to lose Danny Rose this summer. They've also got Ericsson, who's not very highly paid, who's probably on his last big contract sniff. If he has a good World Cup and they've qualified, he'll be off. Harry Kane's not going to stay there if someone comes waving 350, 400 grand a week. And Man United will come and wave it in his face, I promise you.
I wouldn't be surprised. They offer him 500 grand a week, and he's, what is he on, 80 at the moment?
No, he's on 120.
Jeez, I thought I was giving him a pay rise.
No, they did.
Somebody's going to come in and offer 250 million quid for him, they. That's the big thing.
And the thing is that Levy will sell it as the biggest deal of all time, but it will just evaporate out the exhaust of the cost of that stadium. They are going to come out of this with a shit team, a massive stadium they can't fill, and indebted for a decade. And it's going to be great. It's going to be the equivalent of us lot dancing on their grave and pissing on it for a decade again.
And then they'll go bankrupt, and then they'll have to play at Barnet.
The only way out for them would be that they sell the club for a massive extortionate amount of money to someone who's got infinitely huge emptyless pockets to put it in there. The problem is, like with Tottenham, they left building a stadium too late. They left selling the club too late, and by the time they've got that stadium built, and they'll be Levy's a stupid cunt. He thinks he was going to go out there and demand $2 billion for that club. No one will buy it for that. It hasn't got that marketable value. It isn't Arsenal. You know, if you think about this, we're out there paying £60 million for players and buying up. We're not even in the Champions League. We're still getting people like Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang and Lacazette to join us.